So thank you all for coming, especially so early in the morning on Youth Day. Yeah. Special welcome to Minister McAllister and Minister Anu. Also, big shout out to Ollie for the catering leadership this morning. Thank you so much. Also, while we're thanking people, big thanks to Jared and Laura as ever for helping us out. So I'm here with a group called AFIS, Australian Youth for International Climate Engagement. And essentially we work to bring youth into these spaces and youth voice into these spaces and elevate them from their local communities and give them opportunities to speak in the international stage and also in government decision-making spaces. One of the ways we tried to do that this year was through a project called Oceania Climate Stories, which there are a couple of copies floating around, and this is a compilation of a bunch of youth that submitted their poems and narratives and personal thoughts and opinions on climate change, and so we encourage you to read that. And essentially that project was designed to galvanise action and start conversations through the power of storytelling, stepping away from the classic statistics of how many youth care about climate change. It's pretty much all of us, and basically, as I'm sure everyone here would agree with, a lot of youth in Australia and Oceania more broadly have a lot of experience with climate change, and it's a formative early experience, and it has a very lasting impact on them as people as we grow up. So, Cooper, we have two lovely members of our team here who submitted stories and have been generous enough to share them with us today. So, Cooper, if you'd like to come up and introduce yourself and tell us your poem.
Hi everyone, my name is Kupa Kwashe Matangira, or Kupa for short, and I'm really excited to be with you today. And I'm going to share with you my short poem. It's called Mercy, Mercy, Mercy. And this is my way of communicating that humanity needs to care for the earth, because if we destroy her, the earth, she destroys us. So here we go. War, in its nature of tragedy, lines the streets with sorrow and destroys everything in its path. Winds blow and give life to the world around us. The seas rise, rejuvenating the earth. The fires rage, but birth new life. But nature has disconnected. The war we now fight is nature itself. Greed has fueled this new war, a war wherein we destroy the earth and in the end it destroys us. Mercy, 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 we cry as we run from the fire. Mercy, 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 the earth cries as we destroy her forests and ruin her home. No one leaves home unless home chases them away. With seas rising, the land is no longer replenished. Houses, land, communities are being destroyed. I've seen it. We've all seen it. There are no eyes here, says the miner, as he robs the earth of her beauty. We see it. The earth sees it. But it's ordinary people who suffer. Let me no near the fire, I beg. I cannot stand the burning, iridescent light. Like a dragon, it breathes fury, destroying livelihoods. The earth is crying. The earth is hurting. It is now hurting us because we hurt it. We can no longer ignore climate change. The winds sing, the birds chirp, stars dance around the sky, and the sea swirls in majesty. What a dream. I dream of a world where this can be. a world where trees run free with no developer in sight. I wish for a world where we care for the earth and we treat it well and it rewards us with life. Words are easy, words are cheap, and those who have the power to commit action to address climate change and care for our earth and our planet, please do. We need leaders that listen much more often and more sincerely, because climate change, global warming, sea level rise, and glacier melting, they can no longer be ignored, not by me, not by you, and not by us. Thank you.
Thank you, Cooper, for those really powerful words. It's a really nice call to action to start Youth Day. We also have Mary here with us, who is an amazing Pacific leader. Mary, if you'd like to come up and...
At Salofa, Nissan Bulavanaka. Good morning, everybody. Awesome. I want us to feel like we're at home. My name is Mary Marcelina Harm. I'm a proud Samoan Chinese Fijian, born in Canada but raised on Meanjin, Brisbane, Australia. I'm the eldest daughter of the eldest daughter of the eldest daughter. And so I introduced you with my full name because they are who I draw my strength from. And they are who have, woven the mat for me to sit on today. And so I welcome them into our space, and I welcome all of your ancestors and your loved ones here with us as well. Minister McAllister, this might be a bit of deja vu for you. I'm going to recite a speech that I shared at the ALP conference in Meanjin, but I feel it's relevant still here today. For far too long, the Pacific have been viewed and treated as the helpless victim of climate change. From the depths of the Mariana Trench, through the river systems of Vitilevu, amongst the reef outside of my village of Satawa and Whalelupo, Savaia, Samoa, to the mountain peaks of Papua New Guinea's highlands, and on the banks of the Meanjin Brisbane River, Indigenous people continue, by necessity, to be the global leaders on climate action. And I come from the grassroots, a space grounded in story, in song, in dance, in salanoa, open conversation, and out of necessity, I have been thrown into this space because I know that the decisions made in Australia have direct impact to my community and my family on the front lines of climate change in the Pacific. So I invite you to lean into what I believe and call high-level community speak. E fofo el alamea le alamea. This is a Samoan proverb that tells us of the crown of thorns starfish. It is said among Samoan fishermen that if you are to step on the crown of thorns starfish, its spiky like thorns will inject a poison into your foot. But if you are to flip over the alamea, it has a spongy-like back. And if you press your foot against that back, the alamea, the crown of thorns starfish, will heal its own doing. And we use this proverb to teach us two things. The challenges that are faced by any community are best solved by that community. And that action takes healing, and healing takes action. And in many ways, Australia is the alamea. Its addiction to extractive industries continues to poison our people. And it's time for Australia to heal its own doing. Commit to the Port Vila resolution and to a just transition to a fossil-free fuel Pacific, sorry. And this means shifting to clean energy. This means ending fossil fuel extraction. This means strengthening environmental laws. This means advancing additional finance for loss and damage and creating space for Pacifica, First Nations, Indigenous voices at all levels of the conversation. To host the UN climate talks with the Pacific, Australia must show true climate leadership. It's time to get our house in order. And for Pacific Island countries, this fight is for survival. Either fossil fuels have a future or we do. And we're not going anywhere. And so I like to quote the words of a young activist, Brianna Fruin, who says, "True leadership is like weaving a falla or a mat, knowing that you may never sit on that mat, but being content in knowing that your children and your children's children will." And so I invite you at 9 a.m. as well to join us at the front, where we're going to energize our community and we're going to amplify our stories and our voices for a fossil fuel-free Pacific. Papatailawa Vanaka.
Thank you so much, Mary. My name is Max. I'm from Naarm, Melbourne. I'm here with AFICE, Australian Youth for International Climate Engagement. I'd like to echo Mary's call to action from the end of her speech. I think it's imperative that Australia steps up and takes the lead and gets serious about phasing out fossil fuels as soon as possible in a just and reasonable manner. And also just echo Mary, her story about the Alamea. I think these stories are so important to bring colour and a human face to an issue that sometimes is dominated by acronyms and figures and statistics. And I think it sends a powerful message and makes it relatable for all of us. So I'd like to acknowledge all the amazing youth that we've got on the ground here this year. And such an amazing turnout here, by the way, this morning. I think it was going to be a real push-pull between the balance of free food on one hand and the early morning on the other hand, and it looks like the free food won. So yeah, huge turnout of young people and people that believe in young people as agents of change, and so we thank everyone in the room for being here. Especially thanks to DQ, Jared and Laura for making this all possible and for providing the support for all these wonderful young Australians to be here. We hope to build on this next year. We've been able to take so much away already from COP in the first week, and we've got just as much to give. We're just in the AFICE team, we're a team of engineers, climate scientists, community workers, policy specialists, and more. We've got such a wealth of knowledge, from Indigenous knowledge and a vast spectrum of experiences, including PhDs at Oxford as well. So we've got a real well of experience and perspective and so much energy to bring to this conversation. I'd also like to acknowledge the ties that we're forming between Australia and Pacific Youth. Great to see our Pacific brothers and sisters here this morning. We're really laying the foundations for a beautiful relationship heading into COP31 that we want to continue, and we hope to be supported to do so. And to close the content from youth this morning, I'd like to end with a little message about why we're all here in the first place. Something to bear in mind as we're talking about climate change and trying to fight for a better future is, why are we pouring our hearts and souls into this fight? Why are we subjecting ourselves to these early mornings, late nights, and ungodly amounts of caffeine? This whole campaign is about securing a safe and just world for the future. It's to ensure that young people and future generations inherit a planet that allows them to thrive, just as those who have come before us did. So it's for the future. It's for our descendants. And so with that in mind, let me ask you this. Are we being good ancestors? It's a question I like to ask a lot because I think it's a powerful way of reframing the present and our actions that we're taking today. Because our action or inaction today will shape the well-being of future generations, and we must not lose sight of that. So as we go into Youth Day and spread ourselves out throughout this massive venue and attend all manner of events, I want us to bear in mind these two questions. Why are we here? And are we being good ancestors? So keep those ticking over in your mind today. And without any further ado, can I please welcome Jenny McAllister, Australian Assistant Minister for Climate Change and Energy. Would you like? Yep, and as well as Mona Ainu from Niue. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and how fantastic to see you all here. This is just so exciting. I actually just arrived in Dubai yesterday, and this is my first official event at the COP, and I couldn't really think of a better way to start. Can I offer an incredibly warm welcome to all of you joining us here today from across our region, from our Blue Pacific continent, here to the Australian Pavilion. It is an absolute delight to be here with my friend Mona. Mona and I have had the pleasure, or at least it's a pleasure on my part, Mona, to meet with you on many occasions, and we've often talked about the work that Mona does practically in her own community, but also across the Pacific in her role as gender and inclusion champion, and the significance of including young people from across the Pacific and young women and girls in particular from across the Pacific in climate activism. And so, Mona, it's an absolute pleasure to have you join us here in our pavilion, and I'm really just so pleased to be working with you. Mary and I did meet at ALP conference earlier in the year, and she put a really powerful case. Where'd she go? She's off to be an activist. But she put a really powerful case at conference for the inclusion of young people in the conversation about climate. And we couldn't agree more. Enabling the participation and representation of Indigenous people, of women and girls and young people in the COP process is fundamental to unlocking the ambition that we know is required to achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement. And that's what this final week is all about. Young people stand to lose the most from the impacts of climate change, but you are also powerful agents of change, strong, legitimate voices about the future. And it's vital that your input is sought and carefully considered, and having you all here at the COP means a great deal to us, but I think it means a great deal to the global community as well. It is why the Australian Government has provided some financial support to around 20 young Australians to come and participate here, and it's why we're so pleased to welcome so many of you here into the pavilion today. We've established a youth advisory group on climate change to help us shape our engagement here at COP28. And Minister Bowen, the Senior Minister, will join a panel later today at 1:30 with some of the young people from Australia who are advising or advocating to or working with the Australian Government on international climate policy and engagement. So I really encourage you all to come to that event and have a conversation with Minister Bowen as well. But I will leave my remarks there. I simply wanted to welcome you, to thank the Australian Youth International Climate Engagement Network for your work. The stories that we're able to tell together about what this means at the human scale mean as much as any scientific report ever can. These are fantastic stories, and I'm really just so very pleased to have you all here. Can I just acknowledge my friend Cedric Schuster, who I noticed has just arrived as well, our Samoan Minister. And Cedric, welcome. It's wonderful to have you here in the pavilion as well. Thank you, everybody, and can I introduce my friend Mona, please?
It's okay. Thank you, Jenny. This is my little sister. I'm pretty sure. Kalapalaiatu from the beautiful, blue, vibrant, blue Pacific. Kalapalaiatu ke mtulosi ke hingoa toloiki ko Yesu Keriso. I'm not sure if I had anything else to say. I'm sure that Jenny has already extended the pleasantries and the stories that we continue to tell. Basically, I'm exhausted of trying to tell my story, tell the story of my daughter, her cousins, my grandmother, my mother, and all the Pacific people. I'm just exhausted. So I'm very grateful that we have a whole lot of youth following in our footsteps. I haven't done much, just talking. I went to a panel. I had a panel the day before at Oceans, and tried to tell my story, try to tell the story of Ocean and what we are trying to do. We have programs campaigning from 5-year-olds to 10-year-olds at primary school, telling their story, because it's important for us as Pacific people to let them feel, to let them see, to let them hear what is going on. So this is a huge campaign, and I know Jenny understands me very well, because I went to Egypt last year, left all my clothes, all my shoes, and packed it with a whole lot of snorkels for this program. So it's a huge undertaking for a lot of our young people to see what is happening. I grew up walking everywhere. I grew up not having any thought that we might not be there, that my island of one might not be there. I can't drive to escape if there's something wrong and my island is sinking. We're a little bit higher than the rest, but at the end of the day, why would we allow our children to take on that burden? Us leaders, we continue to call on large countries to do what is correct, to do what is morally correct, and their obligations to help us to reduce what emissions they have, to find other ways. Because as mothers, we want to fix everything. And when your 12-year-old look at you and ask, why? I can't fix it. We need people to understand. Someone said to me, oh, you should have a better language. English is my second language. I don't speak this language every single day. So bringing a better language or proper language, well, tell us what, because we've been calling for many, many years. We've been crying. I go to Kiribati. The lands are submerged. Mothers are trying to house, accommodate their children in one small space, and with animals. Who lives like that? I would like some of these leaders to come and live in our shoes, in our children's shoes, because my ancestor wanted me to be a good custodian of our lands, but I'm not, because I don't have any choice. Please, all that we do, and I really, really am very grateful to all our youth for fighting for us, for crying out, because I can't cry anymore. COP31 is COP that we in the Pacific are hoping they will come to Australia. We pray they will come to Australia, because then we will come. And we also invite those that are coming to COP to bring us, Australia, to bring some of the activities to the Pacific, so we can all experience what we experience every day, the fear that we live with every day. There's a lot of things that need to be said, and I love that I have youth, and I really love this book as well, and I'm sure we'll be able to include some of our stories, because as a old woman parliamentarian, it's up to us as women to help support our brothers in Parliament to make the good decisions and the correct and proper decisions for our people. It's not enough anymore that we're out here crying and talking at COP. It's not enough. Something has to happen. But anyway, I have a few youth that came with me, and I really would like to ask Australia, because I know you brought 20, or you funded 20 to extend this invitation to the Pacific, because that is the only way we can encourage and enable them to speak, because being exhausted talking, I'm pretty sure my language is different to the youth language, and it's very important to allow our youth to be heard at this international platform. I didn't have a speech as such, because I know I have to go and sit over there at the mat up at the pavilion to support our youth, because that is what our ancestors taught us, to support each other, tell your stories. But anyway, I think I better end it there. Thank you so much, and I really look forward to the invitation coming out when we leave here to our Pacific Youth. Is that right? Yeah. And happy Youth Day. I look forward to seeing you in Australia. Well, I look forward to seeing you next year wherever that is. I'm jumped the gun, you see. I've lost track of days myself. But anyway, ka ue lahi mahaki, ka ingoa do tolo iki ko Yesu Keriso.
Thank you, Minister McAllister and Minister Anu. I also wanted to just thank you, Minister Anu, and everyone else here who, both today and all the way through COP, has come and brought their stories and acknowledged the vulnerability and the emotional labour that takes to come into these spaces and talk about your communities. With that, thank you all for coming. Please meal and eat. Oh, the food's gone. Never mind. Please talk to each other and go out into Youth Day and spread the word, and thank you for coming.